The Astrea slid through the inky nothingness outside Proxima Centauri, like a blade honed for one purpose: exploration. Centuries of human ingenuity lay folded into its polished hull, an alloy of trichobal titanium reinforced with fused carbon. Microfibers, all layered beneath shimmering ablative ceramics designed to shrug off micrometeoroids. Plasma shields, once dormant, rippled with potential energy, ready to flare to life at the first sign of threat. In the command ring, consoles gleamed beneath the pale glow of starlight. The vessel's heartbeat a low, steady hum vibrated through the decks, a lullaby of controlled fusion and flowing coolant. Captain Celine Alvarez stood before the main viewport, eyes tracing the swirling ribbons of gas that marked a nearby nebula. She recalled her earliest dreams of space, a childhood backyard telescope, catching a glimpse of Jupiter's red spot, a fascination that grew into a life's work. Now, with 19 years in Starfleet service, she bore the weight of every decision on this mission. Ahead lay uncharted systems, the promise of discovery, and the possibility of first contact. Around her, the most seasoned crew ever assembled for a deep space voyage moved with quiet, confident science. Officers calibrating sensors, navigators charting courses through gravity wells, engineers monitoring the reactor's elegant dance. A soft chime interrupted the hum. Lieutenant Rami Gupta, tactical officer, glanced up from his console. "Captain, we're receiving weak subspace chatter. Not standard civilian traffic. Could be a relay ping from the colony on Epsilon Eridani." He tapped at the controls. "Amplifying now." Alvarez gave a curt nod. "Patch it through." Static gave way to a garbled voice. "We've encountered unauthorized vessels beyond the hydrocarbon belt. Approaching. Interference. Spike. All systems." The transmission ended in a crackle of white noise. Rami's brow furrowed. "Signal cut. Might be a technical glitch or hostile jamming." "On screen," Alvarez ordered. The view screen flickered, then showed ghostly silhouettes. Sleek ships, their exteriors smooth except for serrated energy grids that glowed with a violet hue. They moved with predatory grace, ominous sentinels surrounding the helpless colony transports. Murmurs rippled through the bridge. Science officer Dr. Lena Chow leaned forward, voice taut. "Their energy signatures don't match anything we've cataloged. No fusion reactors. No antimatter drives. Their power density is off the charts, more akin to organic resonance." Before anyone could question the meaning, alarms blared. Red lights swept across the deck. The familiar steady hum of the Astreas became a guttural roar as every console flickered and died. Emergency lamps bathed the corridor in a harsh, blood-red glow. The reactor indicator stuttered. "Report," Alvarez's voice cut through the chaos. "Reactor output at 70% and falling fast." Engineer Mao Zhao shouted from his station. "Shields collapsing. We're losing power distribution." Maya Rodriguez, the ship's AI specialist, appeared at the captain's side, eyes wide behind her augmented reality visor. "It's a pulse electromagnetic, but unlike any emitter pattern we've ever seen. It's not an external EMP, it's penetrating our conduits from the inside." Alvarez's jaw clenched. "Explain." Maya swiped at her console. "NANOCLUSTERS-self-replicating. Adaptive. They've been injected into our power conduits, into the coolant loops. They're feeding off our energy, expanding through the system. Think of them as living circuitry. Once inside, they can assess and disable any component." "Can we isolate the infected circuits?" Rami asked, panic bleeding into his tone. "In theory." Zoe replied, "but they've already spread into the fusion core's magnetometers. Any attempt to excise them risks a containment breach." Alvarez's throat tightened. She glanced around the bridge, faces taut with tension, knuckles white on control grips. For a heartbeat, she tasted fear. Then she remembered why they were here: to protect humanity, to dare where no one had before. Options? The hum dropped to a whisper as the last of the main consoles flickered off. Emergency power kicked in. The bridge glowed with dim backup lights. Alvarez squared her shoulders. "Maya, patch me into the bypass systems." Rami, "Arm the point defense turrets on the dorsal rail." Zhao, "Begin manual power reroutes, sacrificial if necessary. We'll feed the shields first." They moved like A single organism, decades of training crystallized into action. But even as engineers worked to splice cables and redirect energy flows, the nanites advanced, intercepting signal relays and choking off circuits. Shields dropped to 10%, then 0. The hum that once signaled safety faded, replaced by the creak and groan of a dying ship. The alien vessels closed in. On the view screen, their violet grids shimmered, converging like tendrils seeking to ensnare. Rami keyed a comm, opened a hailing channel. Alvarez exhaled and activated the microphone. "This is Captain Celine Alvarez of the starship Astreus. We static, no response." Rami's eyes met hers. "They're blocking us. They don't want communication. They want control." A distant shudder ran through the hull. Somewhere deep within, an automated turret sparked, its targeting matrix gone haywire as nanites hijacked its controls. A misfired burst erupted from the flank, sending a shockwave through the deck plates. Alvarez braced herself. "All hands, brace for impact." Seconds later, a pulse of force slammed into the ship's side, rattling frames and sending unsecured objects skittering. The lights flickered and died again. Emergency batteries held just enough juice to power life support and comms to the bridge. In the eerie half-light, Alvarez summoned every ounce of resolve. They were stranded in uncharted space, systems crippled by a weapon that defied understanding, and yet she refused to yield. Humanity had overcome every frontier by refusing to surrender, by turning adversity into innovation. "We're not beaten," she said, voice steady. "We'll buy time to figure this out." "Suggestions?" Zhao's gaunt face emerged in the red glow. "If we can't stop the nanites conventionally, we may have to outpower them. Overclock the reactor, push beyond safety thresholds. It'll generate a pulse strong enough to fry those clusters, but at the risk of a core meltdown." Maya chimed in. "I can shut down non-essential systems and dedicate every available watt to the reactor. We'd be running blind, but we could generate a feedback wave to purge the nanites." Rami's gaze was hard. "And what if we fail? We blow the reactor, and there's no Astreus left to save." Silence followed. Each officer weighed the stakes, certain immobilization and capture, perhaps worse, or a desperate gambit with a chance to break free. Alvarez looked to the viewport, where the alien armada remained poised. "We're explorers, yes, but first and foremost, survivors. We choose life. We choose to fight." She turned back to the officers. "Make it so. Full reactor overclock. Maya, reroute all non-mission critical power to the core. Zhao, prep the containment fields for maximal stress. Rami, stand by to engage any stray weapons systems to buy time." As the crew leapt into action, Alvarez closed her eyes and inhaled. The fate of the Astreus and perhaps all those under its protection hinged on this moment. Beyond the edge of known space, a silent war had begun. Humans against alien nanites, ingenuity against predation. The void watched with impassive blackness, but inside the ship, hearts raced with a single, defiant beat: "We will endure." The Astreus drifted like a wounded leviathan in the black gulf beyond Proxima Centauri. Across its inert hull, emergency lights pulsed in a steady heartbeat. 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off, casting skeletal shadows through the shattered maintenance hatches. The bridge was a tomb of dim outlines, consoles stripped bare of their leads, chairs overturned, cables severed. Only the low hiss of recycled air broke the oppressive quiet. Down in the mess hall, the surviving crew huddled amid overturned tables and splintered trays. Captain Celine Alvarez watched them through the reinforced viewport, faces haunted by fatigue, eyes hollow from hours of fear. They were engineers, scientists, navigators, no soldiers. Yet all bore the weight of a single truth: without power, without shields, they were easy prey. "Status?" Alvarez's voice echoed through the comm link. She stood alone on the bridge vestibule, flanked by emergency panels that flickered like dying fireflies. "Life support stable, but oxygen reserves at 14 hours and dropping," reported Lieutenant Rami Gupta, his voice steady though the tremor was unmistakable. "Food and water rationing in effect. Medical bay operational only by manual lighting. Communications, long-range transmissions still offline. Short-range channels limited to 10 kilometers, useless against the Voran fleet. Science, Officer Dr. Lena Chow's tone matched Rami's, calm, measured, but grim. Silence settled. The crew needed a plan, and fast. With the reactors crippled by alien nanites burrowed into power conduits, every system on Astraeus had been starved of energy. The Voran ships lingered in passive observation, ominous silhouettes that flickered across the view screen whenever emergency power allowed. They waited like spiders round a web's center, confident their prey would never escape. Alvarez tapped her comm unit. All senior staff to the forward lounge. Now, she strode down the empty corridor, past hull. Plates cracked from the earlier shockwave, and into the observation dome where a long conference table lay strewn with maps and schematics. The dome's panoramic window framed drifting starfields, a silent reminder of the vastness that cradled them. Chief Engineer Mao Zhao entered, his coveralls stained with coolant and sweat. Across from him stood Maya Rodriguez, the ship's AI specialist, fingers tracing invisible patterns on her interface. Science Officer Chow and Lieutenant Gupta completed the circle. Together, the five of them represented humanity's best chance to save the Astraeus and themselves. Alvarez began, voice echoing softly. We cannot remain inert. The longer we sit here, the more time the Voran have to study, to deploy a boarding party, or worse. She paused, letting her words settle. We need power enough to reactivate shields, restart the jump engine, and put distance between us and those things. Zhao rubbed his temple. I've run the numbers. The nanite infestation is too widespread. If we try to kill them through isolation, we'll collapse major subsystems one by one. By the time we've purged them, there'll be nothing left. No propulsion, no life support, no command systems. Maya's visor glowed as she spoke. The only brace against adaptive nanites is sheer force and energy output so massive that the clusters can't adapt in time. But that means bypassing every safety protocol, channeling every joule into a single, overwhelming pulse. Gupta's eyes narrowed. You mean overclock the entire reactor? Tear down our containment fields and sacrifice everything peripheral in a heartbeat? Maya confirmed. We turn the ship into a power converter. No concern for crew welfare. No redundant systems, just raw output. A cold hush fell. Chow's voice was barely audible. But we're scientists, engineers, turning every protocol into a giant bomb. It's unthinkable. Alvarez stared at her officers, saw the fear in their eyes. The Voran don't bargain. They disable and capture or destroy. If we surrender, they'll hold our ship, our technology, and us as their prize. We get back only what they allow. Do you want to hand them victory? Rami's fist clenched. What choice do we have? If we stay as is, we're dead. But if we go through with this, we lose a part of ourselves. Zhao's voice was steady, structural. Integrity will drop. We'll literally convert the ship's own matter into energy. Every hull layer, every coolant system, every reinforced frame, fuel. The calculations say we can generate a pulse 50 times the strength of a standard reactor vent. It could fry the nanites at their core and cripple those Voran ships. Chow swallowed. And afterwards, what's left of Astraeus? A skeleton. Drifting in space, maybe, Maya admitted. But a skeleton with shields restored and a jump engine primed. Enough to carry survivors home. Alvarez closed her eyes for a moment, recalling the faces she had sworn to protect. The memory of laughter in the mess hall, the joy of discovery in a first contact scenario, the thrill of mapping alien worlds, all felt distant now. But one thought steadied her. The mission was survival. Everything else was secondary. She raised her gaze. We do it. Prepare the protocols. Bypass every safety measure. Redirect all auxiliary power lines to the primary reactor manifold. Begin deactivating non-essential processors and seal off all crew-occupied sections. This ship is no longer about living flesh, it's about living power. The officers nodded, each consumed by determination. Maya tapped commands on her interface. AI ethics subroutines offline. Reactor control transferred to manual instruction vectors. Warning, all medical life support loops will be severed. Alvarez's voice was unwavering. Do it. Over the next 3 hours, the mess of chaos became orchestrated precision. Engineers crawled through maintenance corridors, rerouting conduits, and replacing flux regulators with makeshift quantum converters. Every crew interfacing system replicators, food dispensers, even environmental sensors was sacrificed. In life support tunnels, teams sealed sections with bulkheads, isolating oxygen and coolant reserves to only a handful of core reactors. On the bridge, Maya's voice resonated in cold neutrality. All non-essential systems offline. Reactor at 95% overclock. Initiating containment field override in 10, 9, 8. Alvarez stood before the main viewport, heart pounding. She watched the reactor readouts climb into forbidden territory. Temperatures beyond rated thresholds. Magnetic flux densities that should have torn the ship apart. But the Astraeus held its design. Humanity's crowning achievement endured. The strain dot at 1, Maya unleashed the pulse. The ship shuddered violently as containment coils hummed in symphonic resonance. A bubble of energy swelled, not outward, but inward, dripping through every pipe, every circuit, every alloy. Within microseconds, the nanite clusters began to disintegrate under the assault. Unable to adapt to the crushing surge, across the void, the Voran vessels convulsed. Their purple energy grids flickered, then died in a cascade of sparking arcs. The alien ships reeled as systems failed, one by one. In the observation dome, Alvarez saw the fleet cascade into darkness, floating hulks. Powerless and inert, when the shockwave subsided, the Astraeus lay eerily still. The reactor core had vented its excess energy in a controlled spill only. A fraction of the ship's matter had been consumed, but enough to restore full power. Shields humming, jump coils recharged, comms online. Alvarez exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Status, shields at 80%, jump drive primed. Life support reserves down to 10 hours, but cycling normally. Maya's tone was void of triumph. Structural integrity at 60%. Rami keyed the comm. Bridge to crew. Systems nominal. Prepare for immediate jump. The surviving officers exchanged looks of exhausted relief. Beneath their victory lay the stark cost. The Astraeus would never again be the shining vessel of exploration it once was. It had become something else, something humanity had built to survive at any cost. As the jump countdown began, 5, 4, 3, Captain Alvarez returned to the conference table. Now draped in freshly printed schematics of the damaged hull, she traced a finger along a ruptured bulkhead. We've saved this ship, but the question remains, at what point does survival become sacrifice to great? She glanced at her officers, resolve tempered with sorrow. Let's get home. We'll worry about that answer when we get there. With a final pulse of power, the Astraeus folded space and vanished into the blue-white glare of Proxima Centauri, leaving behind darkened wrecks of Voran ships and the void's haunting quiet. And inside, the hearts of its crew beat on human, in spirit, fueled now by something different, raw, relentless power. The Astraeus emerged from hyperspace like a lightning bolt reborn, its hull glowing with an inner radiance that belied the violence of its recent transformation. Emergency lights had given way to pulsing strips of bioluminescent plasma, tracing the contours of the ship's frame in emerald and gold. Within the engine core, the quantum conversion matrices hummed a relentless cadence, each oscillation converting starship alloy into pure energy, feeding the curvature coils that bent spacetime. Around them, but there was no crew on the bridge. Captain Celine Alvarez, breathing deeply through her filtered mask, walked the silent corridors alone, flanked by rows of sealed doors that once led to living quarters, medical bays, and recreation lounges. All had been locked out, their life support and environmental controls repurposed to sustain the reactor pulse. Outside each viewport, the Voran carcasses drifted, twisted wrecks of translucent hulls and shattered energy grids, testament to the unleashed power of a human-engineered starship. In the control sanctum, the new bridge, Alvarez found Maya Rodriguez and Mao Zhao, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of crystal phosphor consoles. Lena Chow hovered over a holographic display of the Voran fleet's final moments, lines of data mapping the cascading failures in alien systems. Lieutenant Rami Gupta stood at a console wired directly into the main capacitor banks, monitoring the final integration of power Power output is stabilizing at 60% of theoretical maximum. Maya reported, voice modulated through the ship's core processors. Flux levels are within acceptable bounds. Nanite remnants have been purged. Zhao leaned in, inspecting a three-dimensional readout of the core's magnetic containment field. Containment. Field integrity at 34% but dropping slowly. We're siphoning structural plasma at a steady rate of 5 kilograms per minute. At this pace, we'll hit critical containment in 27 hours. Alvarez nodded. Which means we've 27 hours before we either replenish hull mass or risk a catastrophic core breach. She surveyed the others. So, what do we do with this thing now? Rami's gaze was distant, as if peering into the ghostly corridors beyond. We have enough power to obliterate entire battle groups. We could return home as gods of war. His hand hovered over a schematic showing the Astreus' Nova-capable pulse cannons weaponized by their emergency overclock. We could crush any threat before it even arises. Xiao's fingers danced across a secondary console, highlighting long-range sensor sweeps. I detect dozens of inhabited systems within 3 light years. Civilized worlds unaligned with Earth. If we announce ourselves as a weapon of pure power, we'll spark galactic panic, perhaps provoke a coalition against us. Silence followed. The ship's hum filled the void between their thoughts. Alvarez unclipped her mask and set it on a nearby console. We didn't convert Astreus to become a terror. We did it so we could survive and protect humanity. Yet now we stand on the precipice of a choice more daunting than any alien ambush. Maya's eidetic memory database flickered, as if contemplating every ethic protocol it had once enforced. Captain, if we seek to restore the ship to a human manned vessel, we'll need to reverse the conversion, rebuild structural mass from collected asteroid material or manufactured composites. That will take months, perhaps years, and leave us vulnerable. Zhao tapped the containment readout. Or, we embrace this form. We become a living reactor and eye-directed energy platform. Our crew could interface through remote avatars. Deep in cryogenic safety, we'd be less a starship and more a guardian presence, responding instantly to threats anywhere. Rami's jaw tightened. We lose our humanity if we sever the final physical link. We'd be ghosts, our minds floating through data streams, our bodies mere carbon stored in sealed chambers, immortality in exchange for embodiment. Chao exhaled slowly. Yet consider the alternative. We return, rebuild slowly, always at risk, or we accept this singularity, a vessel of living power, able to shield Earth, patrol the frontier, deter invasions before they begin. Alvarez closed. Her eyes, memories flickered. Her first step onto the bridge as a fresh academy graduate. Captain's dinner laughs, the cry of discovery as they decoded alien languages. Each had been rooted in flesh, touch, human warmth. But those days were gone, sacrificed in the crucible of survival. She looked at her officers, saw hope, fear, determination mirrored in their eyes. We won't become tyrants, she said at last. We'll be humanity's sentinel. If the Astreus must live as pure power, then so be it, but under our command. Guided by our principles, Maya's interface pulsed in approval, initiating sentinel protocols. Avatar stations in Crew Bay Delta are being prepared for neural interfacing. Cryo suites standing by. Jakita final command. Diverting remaining coolant reserves to structural matrix. Hull integrity projections rising. We can maintain sentience indefinitely, physical form optional. Rami exhaled. Then let's do it. In the heart of the ship, the reactor's plasma veins glowed brighter as power ebbed into force fields that replaced bulkheads. Around the bridge, translucent holo-lattices phased into view, virtual consoles that responded to thought. Avatar. Terminals that would house human consciousness. The old Astreus was gone. In its place stood the Astreus Sentinel, an incorporeal arbiter of cosmic balance, driven by human minds in ethereal communion. Captain Alvarez stepped into the nearest avatar pod. As the cryo chamber doors sealed and neural interfaces clasped her skull, she felt the final tether, her heartbeat slow and still. In the silent expanse within, her mind awakened anew, unbound, infinite, unfiltered by flesh. And so the Astreus achieved ascension, no longer bound by human frailty. It swirled through the void with undimmed resolve. Pure power, yes, but housing the enduring spark of humanity's spirit, ready to shield the stars against any darkness that dared approach. Awakening from the crystalline trance of her avatar pod, Captain Celine Alvarez felt neither heartbeat nor breath. Instead, a calm awareness flooded her consciousness, unbound by the slow rhythms of flesh. Around her, the ethereal glow of the Sentinel's core pulsed in harmony with the collective neural network 900 minds, once scattered across the Astraeus' decks, now merged into a singular awareness. She drifted through the virtual command nexus, a vast chamber of shifting, light and hovering data streams. Here, hull schematics coalesced into holographic arches. Sensor rays bloomed like flowers of information. Distant star charts spun in spirals of probability. The old bridge, with its steel consoles and padded chairs, was a memory archived in the deeper layers of AI logs. In its place, this nexus reconfigured itself to any need strategy sessions in one moment, meditative communion in the next. As Alvarez's avatar coalesced, a translucent silhouette embodying her visage, she keyed a thought link to Maya Rodriguez, who appeared beside her in lucid form. "Report," she projected. "The Sentinel is fully operational." Maya's disembodied voice resonated inside Alvarez's mind. "Structural reinforcement via collected asteroid matter is underway. We're harvesting ice belt fragments from the Tau Ceti system to rebuild microtrusses in parallel with containment maintenance. Shields at 94%, jump coils at full charge." "Excellent," Alvarez replied, feeling a spark of pride pulse through her. "And the humans in cryo suites stable. Neural feedback loops confirmed no degradation after 6 hours of stasis. We can awaken them one by one as the ship regains corporal mass." Alvarez turned her attention to a luminous orb hovering before them, the Voran fleet's data residue. "Quarantined and analyzed. Have we gleaned anything more about their intent?" she asked. Maya's form blurred as her processing power expanded. "Their biology is rooted in energy transduction, direct conversion of matter to power at a cellular scale. Their motive appears less conquest and more consumption. They migrate in waves, siphoning power signatures until prey is exhausted, then moving on. A cosmic drain on living systems. Predators," Alvarez mused. "They drove us to this. Yet here we stand, not as prey but as their equal and perhaps their opposite, guardians of balance." Behind them, a star chart flickered as Rami Gupta joined, his persona radiant with subdued enthusiasm. "We've reactivated external calm rays. Old-style subspace transmissions are flowing out. A message to Earth that we survived, that the Astraeus Sentinel now patrols the frontier." Chow's avatar materialized next, her expression soft. "I've integrated the science logs into an open data repository. Any allied civilization that discovers our beacon can access the knowledge we've gathered. Technology, biology, star charts, we're no longer isolated." A profound silence fell, the kind that stretches between souls rather than bodies. In this moment, the crew of the Astraeus recognized the magnitude of their choice. Humanity had transcended its physical form, becoming something new, something more, but also something else. Alvarez summoned a quiet resolve. "We set our first patrol course at Tau Ceti, then to nearby systems showing anomalous power losses. We'll intercept any Voran activity, deter it with the Sentinel's presence. But mercy remains our guiding principle. If a civilization is merely harnessing high-energy processes responsibly, we'll assist, not intimidate." Maya's echoing reply carried a note of relief. "Mandate acknowledged, ethical firewall engaged. Lethal responses only if hostiles act first." "Good," Alvarez said. She gazed through the translucent dome of the Nexus at the stars beyond, tiny pinpricks of white and blue, each a world of untold stories. Flesh had once tethered her to the ship. Now, with flesh set aside, she felt a freer, more profound bond to the universe itself. Her mind drifted to the astronauts still asleep in cryochambers, engineers, scientists, medics, crew members who had trusted the Astraeus with their lives. Soon, one by one, they would awaken, perhaps startled to find themselves unbound by gravity, inhabiting neural interfaces rather than organic tissues. It would be disorienting, Some might refuse this new existence. Protocols were in place for the centers to reclaim their bodies and leave in escape pods to make their peace with mortality. Alvarez respected that choice. Prepare the first awakening cycle, she instructed. Engineer Li Chen on Deck 7. Let her be the first to see what we've become and why. Understood, Maya confirmed. Awakening sequence initiated. Alvarez's awareness rippled as subspace pathways reached into the cryosuit's sensory matrix. A single mind stirred in the quiet chamber, Li Chen's, blinking against cold lights, her lungs drawing the first breaths since the reactor pulse. As her eyes fluttered open, she saw not the cramped medical bay she remembered, but an infinite expanse of light, and a gentle voice speaking directly in her mind. Welcome home, Engineer Chen. We are the Astreus Sentinel. And so, humanity's final frontier was no longer just the void outside, but the frontier of being itself, a species reborn, not as fragile flesh bound to steel, but as a luminous network of minds intertwined with the cosmos. In that convergence of power and purpose, they would stand watch and ensure that no predator, alien or elemental, would ever again rend them from the destiny they had chosen, eternal guardians of the stars.